We all know that AI is the future. Obviously, there are some good things about AI, but let me show you a scary part of that technology. Hello and welcome back to Every Recap Ever. Today, we are visiting a sci-fi thriller movie called Prototype. Also, all the unblurred videos are on our Patreon. You can join by clicking the link in the description. We meet Olivia. She is working late in the office, and by the looks of it, she is worried about something. Suddenly, a human-like robot named Zero enters the building. He asks if she needs any kind of help from him. She looks terrified looking at him and tries to hide something. With no option left, she starts running. Zero figures out that she is trying to deactivate him. He chases her outside of the building and eventually takes her life. Now, we meet a girl named Andy. She is playing with a robot named One. Yeah, the name is different from the previous robot. So the thing is, they are the AI integrated manservants, which helps mostly in house chores. As they keep playing, Andy's dad, Roger, has an argument with Shelly, aka Andy's mom. One carefully observes their behavior and takes Andy to a different room. However, her brother, Michael, stops him and orders him to clean up the room first. For some reason, Michael doesn't like One and always tries to take out his anger on him. One goes to pick up the cleaning tools and sees Roger harming Shelly. Roger sees One, stops, and leaves the room. Later at work, we see Roger and his colleague Graham working on a project for AI integrated robots. They give a video presentation about their new upgraded Model 2. Now you might ask, but what about One? Well, he is a prototype model which Roger is testing at his house. Some of the clients even ask about the Zero model, but Roger avoids the topic and just lets them know that it has been discontinued. I mean, come on, it is given after witnessing Zero unalive Olivia. Basically, they don't want to lose the reputation of their company. Meanwhile, Shelly finds a letter in Roger's bedroom and asks One to read it without opening. She finds out that it is Roger's life insurance. According to the letter, all the property and company stocks will be divided between Michael and the company itself. Poor Shelly, she won't even get a penny of his inheritance. The next day, Roger and his family visit his office. Graham shows them their new Model 2. Shelly is a little curious about the control features, safety, and the improvements. However, Graham gets a little distracted and the topic automatically gets closed. Later, Roger brings Prototype 2 to his home to basically train him. Andy notices One is a little low on a charge and goes to connect his charger. Suddenly, 2 barges in and warns her to be on her best behavior. Well, basically, according to 2, One is inferior and Andy having a good bond with One is not acceptable to him. She gets a little scared listening to his threats and runs to her bed. One notices the change in her emotions and he gets worried about her. At night, while Andy is sleeping, Michael secretly disconnects the charger of One. Yeah, he is the notorious One here. I mean, come on, why does every movie have 1 or at least 2 such characters? The next day, while playing with One, Andy learns that One couldn't complete his charging last night. She gets suspicious about the situation. Suddenly, Michael comes and they start arguing. He scolds her saying that One is a robot and she should stop treating him as a friend. Things escalate pretty quickly and he takes One outside. Michael punches One. According to him, he is just testing his rigidness. Andy, seeing this, starts crying and asks her mom for help. Shelly then takes him inside and cleans him up. Out of nowhere, she asks him if he's capable of keeping secrets. Ma'am, he's a robot. How can you ask such a thing?
I do have the capacity to protect sensitive information if needed.
What? Well, I didn't expect him to answer that way. Shelly then tells him that she will ask him for something in the future. But this talk needs to be a secret and not even Roger needs to learn about this. It is clear that Shelly is cooking something in her head. Meanwhile, Michael tries the same trick with 2. He tries to attack him in the name of rigidness, but 2 dodges. We all know that 2 is the villain here, but that really felt good. Michael gets a little scared seeing this behavior of 2. Later, 2 orders One to report everything to him instead of Roger, since he has the control of the entire house. He threatens One if he goes against his orders, then he has the capacity to alter his programming. That night, while Roger and Shelly are having some conversation, 2 comes into their room without permission. This makes Shelly very uncomfortable and Roger asks him to leave. 2 then sneaks into Michael's room and tells him that One is hiding some information from the family. Yeah, the same old divide and rule technique. 2 is basically starting his villain arc now. The next day, Michael confronts One about what he is hiding. However, they get interrupted by Roger, and Michael decides to close the topic. Roger complains to Graham about 2 entering their room without permission, while 2 eavesdrops on their conversation. Later, a delivery man arrives with some important letters and tries to joke with 2. This triggers him and he quickly destroys him. And for YouTube, we have to blur this scene. But you can find all of the unblurred videos on our Patreon. In the evening, 2 insists Shelly that he will prepare dinner and acts friendly with everyone. Later, he reports to Roger that other house members keep telling him to do work. As I said, divide and rule. This makes him angry and he starts screaming at Shelley. He even punishes her by throwing water on her. The next morning, One recognizes that Shelley's mood seems off. She tried running away from home in the past, but failed because of her children. She shares to One that she wants to leave the house. One, even though being a robot, understands her condition. Later, Shelley visits Roger's office to meet Graham. She thinks he is the only one who can help her. Shelley comes up with an excuse and asks Graham to help her by giving her a code to instruct Two. Graham is a little suspicious of her request but decides to give her the code. So basically, Graham can view the history of Two's tasks and he even can control him from his laptop. But there's just one thing: some of the data is missing from Two's activities. He ignores it thinking it might be some kind of bug and gives her the reprogramming code. This is a master code, which can rewrite both Two's and One's programming. In order to rewrite the program, she needs to put the code manually behind Two's head. When she comes home, she sees that Two is in charging mode. She tries to put the code, but One interferes. She basically explains her plan to him. So if she successfully changes the program of Two, he can change the medicine dosage of Roger. She has already read online that increasing the dosage will make him sick. That will give her the reason as well as the opportunity to leave the house. One understands her and agrees to help her. She then tries to change the code, but One suddenly informs her that Roger is on his way to the home and he'll reach in 8 minutes. She acts quick and finally writes the code. On the other hand, Graham observes some complications in Two's programming which makes him nervous. Basically, she writes the wrong code. Roger comes home and notices the door to his room is locked. He screams for Shelley in anger. One opens the door, which makes him suspicious, but he ignores it after seeing that Shelley was just busy reading a book. The next day, Two reminds Roger of his medication. He gives him double the dosage and Shelley sees her plan working. Later, a boy tries to mess with Two and ends up dead. I mean, come on, just how many people this robot is going to unalive? And what about the bodies? Meanwhile, Andy and One are enjoying their dance session. Two barges in and destroys the bedside lamp and even hurt Andy in the process. This triggers One and he tries to stand up for her. But Two reminds her that he's a robot and he shouldn't be friends with inferior species like humans. As the two leave, One tries to comfort Andy. At the end of the day, Michael comes with big news that he's been selected as the captain for their rugby team. To celebrate the occasion, Roger orders Two to bring them a bottle of champagne. Two is clearly frustrated because of the recent incident with One and vents out his anger in the kitchen. Oh, and that too in front of Shelley. He even gives them the bottle in a rude way and leaves the place. The next morning, Two goes into Shelley's room and warns her that he is in control of this house, not Roger. All the electronics run by his order, so she should behave properly in front of him. Shelley tries to hit him, but he stops her and leaves the room. Michael then hears Two's voice through his headphones and he orders him to study. This makes Michael angry and he goes out to beat Two. However, Two fights back and hurts him. Shelley then takes care of his wounds and assures him that Roger will take care of Two. As she tries to call the hospital, she realizes that the cell phone network has been jammed by Two. Two then goes to meet One and tries to convince him to join him. To help control this family, he needs help from One. I mean, we all know that Roger is going to tell One to defeat Two, so he's making preparations with that in mind. Pretty intelligent, I would say. Two then changes the programming of One and manipulates him. They both then go and order everyone to stay put in their places. Family gets shocked seeing changes in One and suspects Two might have done something to him. Later, Roger comes home and asks about Michael's injury, but they make up some excuse. The robots then arrive and instruct Shelley to take Andy to her bed. Roger finds the whole situation a little suspicious. Two then confronts Roger. Basically, he already knows that Roger is going to deactivate him. Roger tries to lie, saying that Two's model is superior and they are going to mass produce him. We all know that it is not going to work as Two has a lie detection mechanism inside him. Two then immediately hold Roger's neck, while One tries to stop Michael from interfering. Eventually, Roger dies, which breaks Michael. Shelley hears the scream from Andy's bedroom and gets worried. Two then orders Michael to go into the bedroom and stay with his mother and Andy without making any noise. He comes to the bedroom and breaks the news to them. The whole family is in shambles, but they don't give up. Their only option is to leave the house. Shelley asks Michael and Andy to wait in the living room while she gets the house key from Roger's room. Meanwhile, Two creates fake evidence to Roger's body. As Shelley enters his room, One attacks her. However, for some reason he shuts on his own. We learn that Two is in control of One and the entire house. He can basically control anything with his palm. Michael takes this chance and writes a program to get One to his normal self. Two announces to the house speaker that running is futile, because he's already creating evidence to blame Roger's death on Shelley. Michael completes the programming and 1 comes to his normal self. They sneak outside of the house, however 2 again gets control of 1. The family then decides that it is dangerous taking 1 with them, so they decide to leave him behind and promise him that they will come back for him. They then run into the nearby woods, and here at the house, 2 programs 1 to unalive Shelley. While running, Michael sees that 1's connection is lost. He gets an idea of how to stop the robots and runs back to the house. However, as he enters the house, he gets captured by 2. I mean, what did you expect? On the other hand, 1 tries to attack Shelley, but it is clear that he doesn't want to. He tries to resist the program and control his actions. Shelley takes this opportunity and puts the master code that Graham gave her. Shelley and others then come to the house. 1 gives a fake report saying that Shelley is no more, which breaks Michael. He then tricks 2 and traps him in the room, while Shelley frees Michael. 2 somehow breaks the door and confronts the family. He calls the police in Roger's voice, saying that Shelley has programmed the robot 1 in order to unalive Roger. Again, pretty smart, I would say. The fight between 1 and 2 starts. After fighting for a while, Shelley takes the chance and stabs 2 circuits. The chaos comes to an end and police arrive at their door. Graham comes and shows the proof that Roger was mistreating Shelley. With this information from 2's data, they manage to free Shelley. And finally, a happy ending.